Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're going under the hood of the Aston Martin Formula One team's recent performance, specifically looking at what happened after the Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, we've got some interesting material. Insights from Lobato's video commentary and also a couple of articles from F1 blogs. They're digging into Aston Martin's, current struggles and their plans ahead.
Exactly. And our mission here is really to get a clear picture, understand where Aston Martin is right now, what's causing these issues, and the prospects look like, especially with those big 2026 regulation changes kind of looming on the horizon.
Absolutely. And these sources, they come from slightly different angles, video analysis versus written articles, but they really do seem to converge on a central point about Aston Martin's situation.
Right.
Let's dive straight into that Miami performance.
Yeah.
Because I think it really acts as a crucial data point for understanding everything else that follows.
Agreed. Both the video and the F1 blogs articles paint a pretty, concerning picture of their weekend in Miami. Alonso and Stroll finished way down 15th and 16th.
Yeah, the only cars behind them were the ones that actually had to retire.
Not exactly where a team with their ambitions wants to be, is it?
No. And what's fascinating from Lobato's perspective in the video is just how blunt his assessment of their pace was. He basically suggests the Aston Martin appeared to be the slowest car across the board in Miami.
Slowest. Even behind the Saubers.
Yep, both in qualifying and during the race itself, lagging behind the Sauber. That's a pretty tough assessment of their current performance level.
Wow. And the F1 blogs articles, they seem to echo that, don't they?
They do. They highlighted it as Aston's worst results since 2023, and they really emphasized that only their two cars and Hülkenberg Sauber were actually lapped during the Grand Prix.
And it's telling that even Andy Cowell, Aston Martin's team chief, is openly saying they're not satisfied.
Right, expressing dissatisfaction and acknowledging that a thorough analysis is underway. They're looking into it.
What stood out to me from Cowell's comments was his point about the Miami track itself. He said it wasn't like an outlier circuit with weird characteristics that might have specifically hurt their car.
Exactly. He mentioned the issues are quite widespread, some areas showing maybe marginal improvement, but others haven't progressed as they'd hoped.
So it really suggests the problems are maybe more fundamental, rooted in the design or development rather than just, a setup issue for one particular track.
I think that's a fair reading. It seems deeper than just one bad weekend. Miami seems to have really shone a light on some deeper problems with the car's development trajectory.
Okay, so that brings us neatly onto Lobato's observations in the video. He talked about potential strategic calls and, maybe more significantly, the visible frustration from Fernando Alonso during the race.
Yes, let's unpack that. Lobato describes this moment where Alonso, even with the car's obvious limitations, he spotted a potential window, didn't he?
Yes, the track looked like it might be drying out.
And he reportedly asked the team multiple times, pit me for dry tires.
But that request, according to Lobato's analysis anyway, it wasn't acted upon in the way Alonso wanted.
It seems not, which ultimately put him in a worse position, stuck among slower cars. But what's really interesting here is Lobato's interpretation of Alonso's reaction.
Right, he didn't think it was just about the car being slow.
Exactly. Lobato's view is that Alonso's anger, his frustration, stemmed from the team not capitalizing on what he saw as a rare opportunity during the race.
So it wasn't just we're slow, it was we missed a chance to maybe grab something despite being slow.
Precisely. And this really underscores the value that a driver like Alonso, with all his experience and skill, brings. Lobato emphasizes that his racecraft, his awareness, these are crucial assets.
Assets that, in this specific instance, maybe weren't fully leveraged by the team.
That's the suggestion. Lobato even goes as far as saying in the video that perhaps Alonso should have a more influential role within the team's decision-making, drawing comparisons to figures like Niki Lauda or Helmut Marko and other teams.
That's a strong statement. Lobato definitely painted a picture of Alonso being visibly annoyed after the race, even if he was trying to keep it together publicly.
Yeah, the feeling is he likely made his feelings pretty clear internally, you can imagine.
It's interesting how Lobato connects this to similar situations like you see with Williams sometimes, or the frustrations Carlos Sainz Jr. has experienced with strategy calls elsewhere.
Absolutely. It really highlights how critical that communication and swift decision-making is on the pit wall. It can make or break a race, especially when margins are tight.
And all of this, it feeds back into the bigger picture, doesn't it? The car's fundamental performance and the team's overall development.
It does. Lobato highlights in the video Alonso's seemingly quite realistic view that Aston Martin, right now, needs to execute races absolutely perfectly just to have a chance at scoring points.
Which really tells you something about the deficit they're facing.
It speaks volumes, yeah.
And the analysis in the F1 blog's articles, they really dig into this with data, don't they?
They do. They point out a rather, well, alarming trend. Aston Martin's qualifying performance in Miami was actually worse than their qualifying at the same race back in 2023.
Worse than last year, so they've gone backwards.
According to that specific metric, yes. Making them the only team on the entire grid to have actually regressed year on year in Miami qualifying pace.
Wow. Okay.
And what's perhaps even more concerning, as highlighted by F1 blogs, is when you compare their current car, the 2025 one, to their 2024 car.
Right.
While there's been some improvement, the rate of that improvement is reportedly the lowest among all the teams in F1, the smallest step forward.
So that really does suggest a significant underlying issue, doesn't it? With their ability to develop the car and find performance at the same rate as everyone else.
It points towards that, yeah. It's not just a temporary dip. It could be a more systemic problem in their development process right now.
A stark contrast to the usual step-by-step gains you expect to see in F1. The F1 blog's articles also mentioned Alonso's mindset coming into this season.
Ah, yes, that he apparently anticipated a challenging year.
Yeah, and that he's mentally kind of prepared for the main focus to shift towards 2026 already.
Right. His motivation now seems to be about maximizing whatever the current car can do. Even if that means, fighting for 10th place or getting a decent result in the sprint qualifying. Finding satisfaction in exceeding the car's baseline.
Which leads us quite naturally to Aston Martin's strategic outlook. It seems, based on the F1 blog's articles and Cowell's comments, heavily geared towards 2026.
Very much so. Cowell is quoted explicitly saying the 2025 car will be used as a laboratory.
Or laboratory.
Yeah, to test and develop technologies and parts specifically intended for the 2026 car. That signals pretty clearly where their main focus lies for the near future.
And the F1 blog's articles make it clear that Adrian Newey's involvement, it's entirely focused on the 2026 car.
Solely on 2026. That's a huge statement of intent, isn't it? A clear sign they see the next rule cycle as their big chance to make a substantial leap forward.
Absolutely. Betting big on 26. But despite this long-term view, Cowell did mention some upgrades still coming for this year's car.
Yeah, for Imola, Monaco, Barcelona. Some are related to rule changes like the front wing flexibility stuff everyone's dealing with.
So it's a bit of a balancing act then.
Seems like it. Trying to gather data for the 26 project while also, addressing immediate performance needs and just staying compliant with the current rules.
It sounds a bit similar to what we're hearing about Williams, maybe? Acknowledging the current car's limits and shifting major development focus to 26, even with some good races this year.
Yeah, Aston Martin's approach definitely seems to prioritize learning and preparing for that future rules landscape. It made sense given where they are now.
And one of the F1 blog's articles touched on something else potentially significant. The delay with their new wind tunnel.
Ah, right. That it wasn't fully operational as quickly as planned. They used to rely on Mercedes facilities, remember?
So the team clearly believes having their own state-of-the-art tunnel is crucial for the future.
Absolutely crucial. The fact it's only recently come fully online might offer some explanation for maybe a slower development rate compared to rivals who've had their infrastructure running longer. It's a possible factor.
Okay, so let's circle back finally to Alonso. His perspective, his motivation. Lobato had some interesting thoughts in his analysis.
He did. He reiterates Alonso's long-term focus is 2026. That's the goal. But he does raise the point, what if the 2026 car isn't a big step forward?
Yeah, could that affect Alonso's drive, his motivation?
It's a valid question. But Lobato also seems to believe that right now, Alonso finds real motivation in just exceeding the car's limits, outperforming expectations when he can.
Like dragging the car to places it shouldn't be?
Kind of, yeah. He draws parallels to earlier in Alonso's career where he felt underestimated. Lobato suggests Alonso's fierce competitiveness, his desire to prove he's still got it at 43, that's a key driver for him.
Almost like getting a P10 in that car feels like a mini victory in itself.
Exactly. Extracting a strong result from a clearly underperforming car might provide a unique kind of satisfaction for him at this stage.
So, okay, putting all this together from the sources, it paints a really clear picture, doesn't it? Aston Martin is facing some serious challenges in 2025.
Real headwinds, yeah. Like you said, doesn't lie. The only team going backwards in Miami, qualifying pace year on year, slowest development rate.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And the frustration we're seeing from Alonso, whether it's on the radio or, likely behind closed doors, it really shows the impact of these limitations, especially when those rare opportunities pop up in a race.
But then you have the strategic side, the heavy concentration on 2026, using this year to learn, bringing in Adrian Newey solely for that project.
Yeah.
That does offer a tangible glimmer of hope for the future.
They're clearly placing a massive bet on the next big rules change, turning things around for them.
Absolutely. Which leaves us with that really crucial question, doesn't it? Can Aston Martin actually bridge this development gap? Can they deliver a genuinely competitive car for 2026?
And for a driver like Alonso, with his talent and, let's face it, his ambition, will that potential finally turn into the kind of success he obviously still craves?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Definitely something to keep a close eye on as this season unfolds and as we look ahead to the next era of Formula One. Concluding remarks as if on the F1 Blog's YouTube channel.
So that's our deep dive into the current situation at Aston Martin. It's a challenging period, no doubt, but their focus on 2026 could be a game changer. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed this analysis and want to stay up to date with all the latest F1 news and insights, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Thanks for watching.